So what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you in a bit more descriptive way what are the tools and how can we become cloud native. So and that's the bit of the next steps and so on. So and what I'd like to do is hear from you all. I mean, if you want to go here another slide, that would be a good time. But does that make sense? And if you want to keep this meetup group vibrant, what are the bits and pieces that you want to keep spending time on? So let's look into it. So Michael said, what if I could deliver my software weekly? Wouldn't that be great? What if I could deliver my software daily? Wouldn't that be great? What if I could deliver my software every minute? Wouldn't that be awesome? So what I have here is, what does it take to become cloud native? And an example of a company in a very conservative industry. And I probably am the #1 marketing person for this wealth management company called Wealthfront. And I'm not a Wealthfront employee. I think you can guess who I work for. But I think it's amazing that they brag about how great they are at writing software and how great that engineering organization is at doing it and making them better. So if you go to their website, you go /engineering, you actually see every commit and how many commits they've done in the past days. And this was taken March 2nd, 2016, which is today. At 2:28, they are based in California. So at 4:30 today, I went to their website and I looked at it, what they did. And at 4:30, 12 minutes prior to that, they push an application to production. So all that customers are using software that they built 12 minutes prior to 4:30 of today, which that's pretty amazing. That goes back into the short development cycle so you can experiment and get new capabilities out. So what they say is, we don't have a release cycle, we have a push button or a deploy button. So that means being cloud native. So what does it look like? It's easy. You just put together a CI/CD pipeline and then run it. So what I have here is a description of a pipeline from an open source tool called Concourse. Check it out, concourse.ci. And you can build these great pipelines and build software, build release candidates, run integration, unit integration. They should. But what you're seeing here is even though you can use these great tools and frameworks that we have down here, places to manage software, manage artifacts, and building pipelines, where's my push button? Right? Do you have a platform? Can you just say push an application to production? And that's the issue that we get with the CI/CD. What you see is there's a lot of continuous integration out there. I don't see a lot of continuous delivery, because in order to do continuous delivery, you need to have a solid platform that you can build an infrastructure that can host your application. So that's where things break down. So how we can solve that problem? One way is to leverage widely used platform in Cloud Foundry. That's not open source. And again, part of our charter, though we are, I am a pivotal employee, I like to look into the open source tools that are out there. And you can go and talk to us about commercial offerings. But Cloud Foundry is a platform, and Cloud Foundry gives you that push button so you can complete that pipeline. So it takes a platform for you to become cloud native. Now, what I wanted to do to wrap up this meetup, so we got some time to talk and drink some more beer, I want to explain to you that it's not hard for you to play with Cloud Foundry. It's not hard for you to take a platform and bring it to your laptop and start running and experimenting and understand how great it is to run your software, how easy it is to run it. And for that, what I have is in cloudfoundry.org, there's documentation, there are client tools that help you connect to a platform. And then we have something we call the micro PCF, when I get to GitHub here, I'm going to show you what it takes to bring the whole Cloud Foundry platform on your laptop. And then we have a simple application that allows you to exercise the various capabilities that you're seeing on that platform diagram that Michael quoted show you. Self-healing, workload balancing, containerization of your application, and all the other great things. So that's what I wanted to do it. And if you have any questions on how you can bring this into your environment, I'll be happy to answer. So let me spend just a minute to show you. So the very first thing is, of course, if you go into your GitHub right here, and that's for the micro PCF, there's a public repo. You can just download. Any questions? PCF stands for Pivotal Cloud Foundry. So Cloud Foundry is the open source project, and Pivotal has a commercial distribution that's all based on the open source project. Thank you for asking. We often take it for granted the acronyms. So it's a zip file. A zip file of the whole platform package as a Vagrant box. Right? So you download that, and I'm not going to download right now, but what I'm going to show you is that once I download that zip file, I unzip on my machine, and then I issue, in this case was Vagrant suspend and Vagrant up. So I do Vagrant up on the folder that I unzip this thing. It takes you about 5 minutes, and then what you get in here is the platform up and running. And it gives you some information. It's not showing here because I'm resuming the platform, but it gives you some information on how you can access. So once I have that up and running, what I have in here is code. That's an application. It's a Spring Boot application that exercise capabilities that you like a platform to have. And there's a build that's a Maven-based build. And what I want to do is I want my push button. And I'm going to push this application to the Cloud Foundry platform that's happens to be running on my laptop. So the first thing that you need to do is that the Cloud Foundry has a command line interface called CF. It's also got a zip that you can install very quickly. And I have it already installed in here. And what allows me to do is target a specific Cloud Foundry environment. So I'm already logged in and I'm already targeted to my local environment, which happens to be running right here. And today we will not be explaining what's Cloud Foundry. I just want to show you that you can very quickly run the platform. And then where's my push button? My push button is essentially CF push. And it's Cloud Foundry push my application. And what's going to do, I'm going to take an application that I built and I'm going to deploy it this one. So let me just run CF push. I'm going to give you an application name. So I'm going to call Cloud Native Meetup app. And hopefully if this thing it's been running fine, I don't know, my machine was just sitting around didn't sleep. I'm actually going through the process of deploying an application into a cloud native platform. You have to do Cloud Foundry. So all the steps of creating routes so I can access my application, binding the application to existing services in your infrastructure, building a container, creating a container. This happens to be a Java-based application, so bringing all the infrastructure requirements to host and run my application, upload the application, and then provide me some basic monitoring capabilities so I know my application is running properly. All that is done as part of the platform. So now that I've issued my push button, it happens to be a command CF push, I have a URL that I can access my application on. So I can go here, CF open, and give my application name. It's name C Cloud Native Meetup -app. What that should do, it actually takes me into the application. Right? So what I'm trying to do here is to explain to you that if you're interested in learning cloud native platforms, Cloud Foundry is a good alternative out there. You can very easily and quickly, within about a half hour to an hour, you can actually get that platform and start running it. And this is just an application that allows me to exercise the various capabilities of Cloud Foundry. What we try to do here with this application is give you a little architecture. There's a microservices in there. We use Spring Boot framework. We use the Netflix open source projects to build large distributed systems. And then what we try to do is actually put a little description of what that particular page is doing it, and what kind of demonstration scripts you can follow to understand the behavior of the application in the platform. So a nice thing for you guys to check out, and we hope to get to demonstrate the application and platform in some other video. So what I'd like to do is just, I guess, stop right here, and I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I really appreciate this is the first meetup. What we were trying to do is kind of set the tone of what we're trying to accomplish here. We wanted to explain what is cloud native. I don't know if you have an opinion about what you think is cloud native. That'll be a nice thing for you to share when we grab a couple more years before we get to have one. So, thanks everyone. Any questions? If you guys want to see Cloud Foundry, you can actually do it right now.
This Cloud Foundry, are the different pieces of, you have all the different pieces of the 12-factor apps. Are those different pieces able to just be kind of turned on as you account for those in your software? Or is it kind of like one of those things you just have to refactor the whole damn thing?
See, the 12-factor is really a methodology of how to write applications that run in the cloud. In order to run in the cloud, there are expectations that this cloud environment is going to support the methodology.
Sure.
So Cloud Foundry does attend and follows a lot of the things that are part of the 12-factor application. So it is a perfect environment and platform to host applications that we would do. I'll give you I'll give you an example on the platform right now. So if you want to see. So I deploy this, and one of the examples is services. How do I handle services in my application? So 12-factor, this is, let me see if this is the newest one. No, so the 12-factor has one thing called backing services, and it tells you that services need to be attached to the application, okay? So in the newer version, I actually have a link to the 12-factor 12, I think, or one of the 10, that talks about backing services. So, okay, what does it mean that a service needs to be attached to an application? In the case of Cloud Foundry, what it means is that if I look into my application environment, I can take a service that my platform may offer, and I can bind that service to the application. When we bind a service to the application, in fact, we are attaching that service to the application. What does it mean attaching? We take the properties that defines that service, credentials. For the case of the MySQL service database, what are the properties for me to connect to this? And I inject that into the container of my application. So I'm attaching. So when I build my application, I don't need to have all the information in. I deploy my application and then I bind or attach this backend service that's sitting out there on my infrastructure onto my application. And once I do it, I can then consume. So I guess the short answer is Cloud Foundry is a great platform to run applications that are based on the 12-factor.
I guess my question was mainly, what about those that are not based on that and want to eventually
that's
get
it.
there?
That's it.
And then, so we're talking about small iterative changes.
Right.
You can't just, it would be unadvisable to just go in there and take that legacy application, add those 12 factors, rip everything out, and try and do it all in production.
Right.
So following that.
So that's a great question as well. So what happens is, this is a cloud native platform. can I take my application, my legacy application written in J2EE, for example, right? It is legacy, 10 plus years, and run on Cloud Foundry? You can. Is it the best place to run a legacy J2EE application? No. So does it make sense? It depends, right? If it is an application that maybe it's not quite mission critical, I need to go through these iterations, and maybe the platform can bring enough benefits to me to get the application going, I'll do it. If it's not, then you wait to do the iterations in the refactoring, and you take pieces of the application and you move into the platform. Right? Not everything in your environment needs to run on Cloud Foundry. And we don't expect that to be the case, because any large enterprise is running a combination of mainframe systems, open systems, and cloud-based infrastructures. But that's a great point. And we have different ways. We call it Cloud Native Journey, and I guess the book that Cote wrote talks about that use case and how you get from an application that's very hard to release because it's a monolith, it's a very large app, and how you can modernize your application to a point where it makes sense to run on a cloud native platform. And I reap the benefits of it, which is time to market, innovation, and so forth. Any other questions?
I'm trying to Google, like, what are the PCF regions?
Well, that's an interesting question. You say PCF regions or Cloud Foundry regions, you mean you expect this to be running on some sort of public cloud out there? I'm not so sure I understand the question.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, everything I've seen is like it's a service board.
Right.
Do you expect, or are you running this in mind for?
So that's a great question, because a lot of times we say, I have a cloud platform, and the first thing that comes to our mind is some sort of public infrastructure that's out there in which this is running. Right? So Cloud Foundry is a software. As a software, we can take and bring to your data center, and you can get this cloud platform in your data center. You install it, and now you have it in a platform that you can deploy on. Right? Now, there are companies, including Pivotal, that have a public offering or a hosted Cloud Foundry platform that you can sign up. And then from that point, you can start deploying, you don't need to manage and maintain. There are other companies that are part of the Cloud Foundry organization or foundation that also take that open source project and create their own commercial distributions of it. And they may have, most of them, they only have a public offering that you sign up for. So IBM Bluemix is a great partner of ours, of Cloud Foundry, let's say, and they have Bluemix as a run. We have something called Pivotal Web Services. So if I go over here, and if I go run .pivotal.io, this is where you can sign up. So this is your public. Now, this runs on an Amazon infrastructure. This platform is a service. It runs on a virtualized or an infrastructure as a service infrastructure. So it can run on Amazon. You can set up this on Amazon yourself, or you can bring it to your own infrastructure.
You can run it on AWS and Google, OpenStack, VMware stuff,
Azure.
So the idea is that you can run it on whatever IaaS you might have, which, not everyone cares about that, but at least, switching to Pivotal, a lot of the people that Pivotal sells to, they talk about multi-cloud and hybrid cloud, and they're like, I've got all the clouds you would ever want, like I'm a big mega company. And more of what they want is, I want to have a standard way of doing application that runs on whatever infrastructure that I have. And that's what you get with it being software rather than only a public platform. And then in fact, like, I don't know if this is accurate history because I wasn't here then, but I think the first maybe 3-4 years of Pivotal's life, we tried to just have the public paths only, but that didn't really work out. So now it turns out like we have a much better business where basically we sell to a bunch of other people who want to run. They want that layer, and they want to decide where to run it on. And the other, just to add one more thing, the other thing that gets you is if you go to PWS, Pivotal Web Services, you don't really have a lot of control over what is there. Because in order for it to be a public cloud that works, like we have to specify, like you get this database, you get this thing, because that's how we can guarantee you run it. And you definitely don't get access to proprietary software that only exists on your own network. We don't have that. And so whenever you run it on your own, because it's this abstracted software layer, to use ancient terms, like you can tune it and make it do exactly what you want. Of course, anytime you customize a piece of software, there's a certain line you cross where you're creating more problems and help. But basically, you can turn things off or add in your own services or whatever. And so, at least at the moment, like we find that, or at least as far as people want to give us money, they enjoy that flexibility that you get around it, just being a sort of take it or leave it portfolio.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, portability is actually a challenge that you find often. You build your own infrastructure or your own platform, you build it to work with AWS. Oh, I want to go to Google Computing. You can't. You got to rebuild all that plumbing they use, maybe Chef or Puppet or whatever, Salt, Ansible, or even your own scripts.
And you see a similar thing across all the other cloud native platforms we've been alluding to, that they, for the most part, they're a piece of software or pieces of software that you get that will run on whatever infrastructure you might want. And it just allows you to have a layer above the IaaS layer, essentially. But always like layers.
Good things and bad things.
Sure. I don't know. Depends what kind of cake you like. You like a cheesecake or an Italian wedding cake? You have different opinions on layers. Or a cobbler. I don't have to explain that.
That's interesting.
So, any other questions?